Unions are slamming government's vaccine strategy. Yesterday, Health Minister Zweli Mkhize outlined the vaccine rollout plan, saying healthcare workers will receive the first batch in the second quarter of this year. I'm joined now by Cosatu Spokesperson Sizwe Pamla. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Pamla. Do you buy into government's explanation of why they have not yet secured vaccine doses or put in place a comprehensive rollout plan?
No, not at all. The explanation was not convincing at all as far as we are concerned. In fact, this is very disappointing because, for an example, the minister called 3 of our unions into a meeting on Wednesday this week. It was the first time the minister was talking about the vaccine, and he really didn't say much. He is yet to meet the federation, and we have 18 affiliated unions that are willing to work with the minister and government to participate in creating the logistical plan for the distribution of the vaccine. We have no idea. We were hearing what he was saying for the first time. And we know, even when the minister is talking about engaging with BUSA, we know that he only did contact them sometime this week, because on Monday, we met with BUSA and we invited the minister to come and present the plan at NETLEC, and the minister refused. So BUSA was as clueless as we were on Monday. So for him to come and present this as if these discussions have been taking place for a long time, it's really disingenuous and it's disappointing. And if you look at where we are as a country, we are lagging behind. We understand the issue of the resources. But if you also listen to what the minister is saying, he's only just engaged, or is still engaging with the domestic partners, because there's nothing conclusive that is presenting. The Council for Medical Aid Schemes, you don't hear where the process is at. So he is not even finalized that part of work, of engaging with domestic partners, of harnessing the resources, of ensuring that everyone is on board. So this is really something that should not be accepted by South Africans, because there's a lot at stake here.
Before we even get to the logistics of engaging with domestic partners, we know that other third world countries have already started their vaccine rollout, not just procurement. They are physically administering vaccine doses. The excuse being used here is that it was too much of a risk to purchase vaccine doses before they had been approved, yet that did not seem to be too much of a risk for many other countries around the world. What do you think is really behind the delay of government's engagement directly with manufacturers?
No, they were caught napping, just gross incompetence, that's all. I mean, there is no excuse. Like you say, we are part of the BRICS bloc, we are part of the G20. The president is the chairperson of the African Union. So South Africa does have access. So the idea that South Africa is some peripheral country that didn't have enough information, so it was treating carefully, is a farce. It's something that we should not really entertain. The fact of the matter is that the to-do list that the minister was presenting, because that's what he was doing, he was giving us a to-do list. That list, some of those things would have been done as far back as September, because by September, October, there was already a sense that we were going to have vaccines by the first quarter of 2021. I mean, the Sputnik vaccine in Russia is something that was introduced something like 3 to 4 months ago. So there is no groundwork that has been done. Like I say to you, on Monday last week, we wanted to hear from the minister. He refused to come and present this at NETLEC. He only contacted 3 unions out of 18 unions of Cosatu on Wednesday, to give them some half-baked commitments that didn't really mean much. So we look at all that the minister was doing last week as just a preparation for the speech that he delivered yesterday, which means he's treating this like a public relations exercise. Now,
Mr. Pamla, sorry to interject there. I want to get to the issue of management. Do you think government is capable of managing a single procurement point approach to vaccine rollout, or do you think the process should be managed by, let's say, a special commission from the private sector?
Well, it's difficult really to make that determination right now, because we don't know what is it that they have attempted to do and what is it that they have failed to do. The reality is that they haven't done much. So to assess them on whether they have the capacity or not, what we can say is that they have failed us. They have failed the country in a sense that they are only waking up now. Half of the stuff that they are talking about is something that they should have done long time ago. Of course, our approach is that we need to rope in the private sector in this capacity. The private sector should be invested in all of this. The private sector should realize that there's a lot at stake for everybody. As long as we do not put the profit motive into this process, then we are ready to embrace the private sector and allow it to come on board. The problem with the private sector is that it is always pushing its own narrow interest in these situations. And that will be a big problem for us, because what we are trying to do here is to save lives and in the process ensure that we save the economy. But the capacity of the private sector is something that we cannot ignore, as long as the private sector do not look at this as another platform when they can come in and feast. That is not the time. This is not the time for people to be thinking like that right now.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us. That was Cosatu Spokesperson Sizwe Pamla.